Welcome to Tigers Untapped, a Bluff City Media podcast. Stepping up to the microphones are your hosts, Trey Lasley and TJ Willis. Pull up your chair, grab your favorite brew, and enjoy the conversation. Now, let's get to the show. What up, man?
What is up, sir?
Dude, where's our boy at?
Trey, he's just he's got it bad.
Well,
he's got the boo-boo bottom.
Yeah. He sent us this last night.
No, don't lie to him. He's got diarrhea. Trey's got it bad. He's got the deli belly.
You see? He sent us a picture, both of us at the same time, of this right here. And what was our reaction to it?
He's pregnant. Mazel
tov. Trey's pregnant. But he's not actually. Trey has the boo-boo bottom. And
my man's got mud butt.
He is unwell. But no, man, I stepped in to help out tonight. Even though you could easily do this, by yourself. So just step in. Dude, how's your week? How's your week been, man?
It felt like it was Monday.
Yeah.
So that's about it. Yeah, it's busy, man. Busy. Just like you are, like everybody else, I'm sure. How was yours?
It was good, man. I had a conversation with Gabe and Christian last night on the Bluff. How old? And I want to pass this question off to you. How old is too old to do deadlifts?
Oh, I mean, there are people out there deadlifting in like their 60s and 70s, but this is what you need. The question needs to be refined. Is how old is too old to deadlift heavy? Right? I think that's the question.
What would you constitute as heavy for someone? You know me. You've seen me.
It's super relative.
Like how what is heavy? Do you think would be heavy for me?
I mean, anything over 315, you just got no business doing that.
Yeah, right.
You just don't. You don't have that. You don't have the need.
There's no need to, right?
I don't have that need. No.
Well, I wasn't lifting heavy on Monday, and but it was legs and abs day, and part of leg day is I did a round of squats, then I did a circuit of deadlifts, and I was lifting. I was telling them last night I lifted light. Like I wasn't feeling great, so I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna go light with it. I started off at like I think it was like 230, something like that, and then it was like one of those trees where you go a lot of reps, little reps, fewer reps, back up to a lot of reps.
Yep.
And man, I did a set, and I was like, my back hurts.
Yep.
And then I said, let me finish this out. I'm gonna do one more. Dude, I am in pain, bro.
Yeah, it's not worth it, dude.
I'm hurting over here.
It's not worth it.
Yeah. But no, I'm good though. Everything's good.
I'm a fan of reps over the heavy weight personally. But
yeah.
What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Drink?
Well, what are you drinking tonight, man? I saw you already.
I cracked this bad boy open. I didn't even think anything of it. This is Wiseacre's Adjective Animal. Don't get me started on the label. I'm a little skeptical because you got a sun bump can underneath there, and they just threw a new label on it. I get it. Inflation is here. Times are hard. Like we don't.
Wait, a sun bump, is that another brand of beer? Another kind of beer?
No, it is a Wiseacre beer, and they just they threw the Adjective Animal on it, the label on it. I don't know.
Where did you get that?
Several.
Because that's wild.
I don't remember where I got it. Yorkshire, probably. But I did see several cans that were like this. They were just like a shit ton of no. Yeah, but I don't remember. Whatever. There were a shit ton of like Wiseacre cans where there's just another label thrown on top of a sun bump can specifically.
I'm not judging the can because we're not ready to do that yet, but does that not kind of look like a Where's Waldo drawing a little bit?
Spoilers, Kenny.
Sorry.
There's a lot going on that label.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, good. Well, dude, we miss Trey. Wish he was here, but let's see if we can do this in his honor tonight, right?
Yeah, of course. And when he gets back, he's going to have to chug this beer, then drink the actual beer of the week, and that's just what's fair.
That's what's
How
fair.
that works.
It's only right because I don't think you miss. When have you missed a show?
I did miss one because you did it for me. It was episode 3, actually. You did it
Right?
for me, and I came back the next episode, and I crushed out that beer.
Yeah.
The problem is I crushed the wrong beer. I chugged the wrong beer.
Right.
And then I drank that show's beer.
Yeah.
So I did miss once, but Trey, he's just, my dude's always got the squirts. It's unbelievable. Always got them.
Oh man. Well, there's not a whole lot to talk about in terms of Memphis sports right now, University of Memphis Tiger sports, but there is a couple of things I think we need to get to. One of them being in the football world. A couple of recruits, guys that have come on official visits, are announcing in the next couple of days. First one is Peyton Joseph, a top 150 offensive lineman, interior offensive lineman, who is high school teammates in Georgia with Tiger commit Antoine Hill Jr. He was on the same trip that Antoine came on, right?
Yep. Yeah. And Amir Thomas. He's a walk-on.
Right. And Amir Thomas, is he a preferred walk-on or is he a walk-on? Is he just a walk-on? Do you know? Is there a distinction on that yet?
I could probably look it up. I know he's a walk-on for sure. Definitely a walk-on.
So Amir, Antoine, and Peyton all play together on the same team in Georgia, right?
Yep.
That's okay. Correct. So
yeah, Houston County.
Amir has committed, Antoine has committed, and Peyton Joseph will be announcing his commitment on Thursday, July 4th. You've obviously, it comes down to between Florida State and Memphis is getting an official visit from a guy that's his other school that he's looking at is Florida State it's a huge get for Ryan Silverfield in Memphis. But are you expecting him to commit on Thursday to Memphis?
Can you go 3 for 3? It'd be great, right? We were already about Antoine Hill going down as arguably the best commitment, definitely of the Ryan Silverfield era, but more so just all time Memphis Tiger commitments. He's definitely up there in terms of his 247 scale. I believe Brian Moss over at Rivals, I think he has him as the second highest. I think that's what the statistic was. So, you're adding in Peyton. He's just up there, right? In terms of overall. This, what was it? 133 nationally and 7th interior. That's huge, right? And even if you can't, even if the Tigers aren't able to land Joseph, it's the optics of it, right? Hey, you just had a top 10 player at his position that's not like, long snapper, kicker, punter, on a visit. You're in his final 2. You're competing with Florida State. I think that sends a message to some guys like, hey, maybe I should consider Memphis. Take this a little bit more seriously. This is a guy that was committed to Florida, I believe, earlier in the year. I think back in like maybe February it was. So I just think of your company, right? I know Florida is not exactly the powerhouse they once were, but that's still an SEC team, right? That's still a notable brand.
Right. Absolutely. So in terms of, if you're looking at like the 247 composite rankings for both Antoine and for Peyton, they have Peyton listed as a higher rated recruit than Antoine. Obviously each, the 3 major recruiting services that the composite uses to calculate that would say that they're all different. I think they all are a little bit different. I wanted to ask you this, kind of go into Antoine for 1 second. Did you notice that his rankings dropped a little bit since he committed to Memphis?
I try not to be a conspiracy theorist, but every time someone commits to Memphis, it drops a little bit. It's weird that happens. It's weird that happens.
What's weird about it is that if you remember, in 2021
Mhm.
with the basketball program, Josh Minot was an unranked high school recruit committed to Memphis and then like flew up into the 30s after that, right? Like like catapulted. Like what
Sure.
is because it does feel like in football that if a highly ranked player commits to Memphis, a lot of times those ranking systems will drop that player, right?
Yeah, it's so tough, man, because you really have to pay attention to the ebbs and flows of all of the root, like the rankings around him. So,
Right.
like, yes, he may drop a little bit, and Hill may drop a little bit, but then you're going to have two other guys kind of move up a little bit, and it's just like the smallest little smidgen. Like, what are you seeing now?
Right.
Why are rankings changing now? You know, nothing's happening at this point in time, so it should be pretty static. But whatever.
Like
You know,
they're not, it's not like games are happening and so they're in
yeah,
real
like
time ranking. It's like it's an off season. Like, what are we doing here?
yeah, are you getting a updated measurement that he grew an inch and a half? Like, what is playing into this that makes the rankings change at all? So,
I mean, is it a conspiracy theory to think that composite like ranking experts would lower a kid based on where he commits to compared to like if he had chosen Florida, a Power 5
Mm,
SEC school, that they would have been like, oh, maybe he's better than we thought. But oh, he's at Memphis, so maybe, do you think it's the idea that maybe Florida really wasn't going after him, but he had to go to Memphis? Or what are your thoughts on that? Is that a real thing?
well, what's in it for them? Like, what do they get out of lowering a guy just because he commits to Memphis? I mean, I joked about the conspiracy theorist thing, but what do you get out of that, right?
Right.
I do think that it's weird that when rankings drop, there's no logic to it right now. Nothing is happening.
Right.
Um, let's say someone blew out their ACL,
Right.
and summer conditioning, like, does that affect their ranking? Like, they're
I
still
think that would,
talented.
yeah.
They're just, they're hurt, but like, I get that. Like, there's logic there. They're like, hey, we're gonna drop him, move a couple guys up, but like,
Yeah.
none of that is notably happening. So it's just interesting. I don't know that it behooves 247 or rivals or whomever it may be to um, drop rankings of players that aren't going to the high profile schools. Like, I don't know how that helps them in any way, but
Hey, move your head, but
maybe
there
it's a
you go.
situation where um, these Power Five schools, maybe it's like, hey, we'll rank your guys a little bit higher if you try to push them to our camps.
Right.
Maybe it's something like that,
Right.
but I don't know. Try not to be the
Well,
conspiracy theorist.
we've been dealing with that on some of the Grizzly shows this week, dealing with the draft happening, and there's conspiracy theories about Zachariah Rishashare, who went number 1 to Atlanta. And there's not a single, I don't think there's many scouting services and mock drafts that had him as the best player in that draft. And yet Jonathan Gaboni from ESPN had him highly, highly ranked. And there's a
Yeah.
lot of conspiracy theories about that there might have been some underhanded stuff going on there to like raise his stock, raise his value, right? Which is crazy to think if that's happening. But I mean, because you're signing a kid. I mean, the difference between a number 1 pick and a number 4 pick and money is like unbelievable. But
Yeah, it's a lot.
so it wouldn't, I mean, these kind of conversations aren't only happening in college football rankings. It's happening in NBA as well, and college basketball and everything. So it's kind of crazy,
Sure.
but obviously Peyton Joseph will be committing on Thursday, choosing between either Florida State or Memphis, but also Rahim Hutchins Jr. Or is it Rahim Hutchins? Rahim? What are we calling him?
I think he goes by Rah Rah. If that makes it easier, we can just cut
I
it
like
out.
it.
I like Rahim personally because it's like he's him kind of
Yeah.
thing. But let's just go with Rah Rah Hutchins. Makes it a lot
All
easier on both
right.
those.
Rara Hutchins will be committing on Friday. So the day after Peyton Joseph, he was actually on the visit as well with Antoine, Peyton, and Amir.
Yep.
He is a 6 foot, 160 pound. Is that right? 6 foot,
Yeah.
160 pound wide receiver from Pearl in Texas, class of 25. He is a 3-star. What are your thoughts, man? What do we know about this kid? He seems pretty small.
He is slight. He's definitely slight, but he is very fast. So he is like a legit like 4.3 speed. That's his big thing, man. Is you can dump it down underneath the helm and just let him go. Right. Just let him make somebody miss because it's if a foot race to the edge, he's gonna win it. I mean, when we say that, I'm big on speed. So if it's a 4.3, I mean, it's like it looks to be a legit 4.3, 4.4. Like he has got the jets, he's got the burners. That's not big though. 6', 160 is pretty slight.
Yeah.
But I guess it kind of depends what you're doing, right? We've seen guys that small do well. So I actually am looking forward to Hutchins. I think that he is someone that the Tigers actually have a really good shot at bringing in.
Wow.
You didn't. I don't think you asked me directly. Jones. I think if I were to pick today,
Peyton Joseph.
We got two.
Peyton Joseph.
Yeah, excuse me. I said Jones. We got 2 out of the 3 already.
Right.
I don't think we get the trifecta. I do think that he will end up at Florida State. Hutchins, I do think we actually have a very good chance. I would actually, if I had a crystal ball, I would actually mark him as a Tiger come Friday.
Yeah, no, I think a lot of crystal balls have put him with the Tigers already. So that's not a bad look. Once again, Look Alive 25 is looking pretty nice.
And he is right on the cusp of a 4-star, by the way. If you were to look at the rankings on 247, I think he's nationally like 440, and that's like right at the cutoff as a tweener, but between 4-star and 3-star. And we should probably notate this right now before he commits to Memphis. That way we can, see how much we're talking here with this.
In terms of composite 247, he is a 3-star 0.8870 composite ranking, 440 nationally, number 71 receiver in the country. Yeah,
point it out because once he commits to Memphis,
it'll drop.
Conspiracy theorist says he's going to drop. So
it'll drop. He'll be a 1-star by the time he gets on campus.
Sheesh, not that bad.
not that bad. I'm joking. That would be absurd. But yeah, you feeling good about? I mean, obviously, we've talked about the Look Alive 25 class for a while now, but Ryan Silverfield and company continues to stack really good recruits on top of each other, man.
Yeah. It probably won't go mentioned just because of who he is and what his position is, but they did pull in a commitment from a long snapper, Luke Grant.
Luke
Grant. Is that right?
Luke.
Yeah.
Grant.
So he will be a walk-on, and Amir Thomas is a preferred walk-on, by the way. I meant to tell you that earlier.
Perfect.
So they pull in a long snapper. That's another one that kind of gets thrown as a body. I mentioned that because last week we were talking about the football team and how they are having this great class, right? They're pulling it in left and right. But what you're noticing is that they are not the highest ranking team in the American. And it's because there's like 4 or 5 other teams that just have like double the number of bodies committed. Right. So pulling in someone like a Luke Grant does kind of help, even though the scoring is low. It's an extra body, which it does add some points in there. So
it's good.
He's more than a body. You're more than a body, Luke. Okay, don't listen to what I'm saying here. But
what do you think? Where is this class so far in terms of rankings in the AAC? And I know that hasn't USF had like 6x the number of commitments already?
Yeah, I was actually
class.
Yeah, I was about to pull that up actually because I was just kind of mentioning it. I don't know what it is off the top of my head. I think it was like 3rd or 4th. But if you look at the actual scoring method, Memphis has a much higher quality player that's committing. Everyone else is just pulling in these raw numbers. Like I think USF is super high up there. And there's one more team that I cannot recall off the top of my head. But here we go. American. Yes, USF is 1st, ECU is 2nd, FAU is 3rd.
That's who.
You're looking at USF with 22 commitments, ECU with 20, FAU at 15, and then Memphis at 10. So Memphis has 10, Rice has 11, and Memphis is still ranked higher than Rice.
Yeah.
But you do get into that situation when you start looking at the average player. It's Memphis at 88.67. is their average scoring, whereas a team like USF, who is currently listed as number 1, and the ranking is an 85.6. So you're a couple points higher than them in terms of average rated player.
Where does that rank in terms of Ryan Silverfield's previous classes? 88 is the ranking that he's getting in, like across the board. Do we know how to calculate that from previous classes? Like, where does that stand? Is that the highest in terms of overall, accumulated rankings? It has to be, right?
It's definitely up there. Yeah, it's definitely up there. I don't know what year would be higher. We could probably go back to that 21 class. I think it was. The 21 class is pretty high for Memphis, or maybe it was 22. Let me look at it real quickly. One of them was pretty high in the grand scheme of things, but I think that there were a lot of. Here it is. Is the 21 class was 85-17. That's probably going to be your highest.
That's crazy, right? Like that. Yeah. Is that if that doesn't tell you a lot about where the kind of the field that Ryan is playing in right now in terms of recruiting, that's a huge leap, because even the 85 in 21 would have put him at right near the top of the recruiting rankings for this year, and he's 3 points above that in terms of rankings this year. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's the Rock Taylor, Greg Rubin, Mac Pounders, Seth Hennigan class. I'm going through these names and looking at guys. So yeah, that's what you're comparing it against, right? And you got to think the highest AAC recruiting class is probably one of the Cincinnati years, and it's where they only pulled in like I think 2 or 3 4-stars, and Memphis is kind of right there at that, right? We just talked about how Hutchins is right on the cusp of a 4-star. Like he could technically, with a good year, make his way up to a 4-star. You already have one with Hill, perhaps Jones or Joseph. I don't know why I keep calling him Jones. Joseph, if he does flip the script and does become a Tiger, that could be a 3rd, and you're just setting all types of new heights.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
It's wild stuff, man.
It's looking good for Ryan. Look Alive 25 is looking very, very healthy right now. But obviously, we got some even bigger news, I think, in terms of just the direction for the University of Memphis Athletic Department. We've been talking for the last couple of weeks about the athletic director search. Some names came out. You guys have mentioned Dr. Ed Scott throughout this time period of, like, as we've been kind of figuring out who some of these people are. And obviously the University of Memphis, their search committee, and Bill Hargrave, is it Bill? Bill Hargrave, the president of the university, made the decision to hire Dr. Ed Scott as the newest athletic director for the University of Memphis. Just off the rip, give me your initial. I know we've heard him talk. I know we've heard all that kind of stuff, so we can have our opinions of him. But when it was announced that Ed Scott would be the new athletic director, give me your immediate thoughts on it.
Oh, immediately, I thought it was kind of a curveball, right?
It just really kind of is, right? Yeah.
We just gotten, I don't want to say news. I mean, it was news, but like we had just heard that it was, all these guys with direct Memphis ties, right? It was Jeff Crane in the running. It was Adam Walker. It was Allnut. It was Ryan Alpert. It was all these guys with these Memphis ties. They've been here before, etc. Either been here before or were currently here. And it's like, come on. Like, damn, it seems like we just hired this whole search firm and all they're doing is going with the guy where they've
recycling the guys,
met their kid. Like, it's a personal thing. And I was like, part of me just thinks that they're doing them a favor. Like, that really can't be who they want. Like, I really, really wanted Kevin White from Clemson because he had these ACC ties. Like, he knows people over there. So that was me. I'm a little biased. I was pushing for that pretty hard. And then the news breaks and it's Ed Scott. And I'm like, who the fuck is Ed Scott? Like, I knew who he was because he'd been mentioned. But like,
right. We've done our research on who Ed Scott was. Right.
Yeah. It was so off the radar at that point because we thought it was just like, hey, it was all these Memphis guys, these people with these Memphis ties. And then you come in with Ed Scott and you're like, who? What?
Yeah.
At first I was like, the guy from Austin P? Wasn't there like a finalist from Austin P?
I think so.
And it was shocking at first, honestly. And then you start hearing him talk. You're like, all right,
Well,
This dude's got the Riz. I like this guy.
and so that, and this was my initial reaction, but even before we heard him talk, was my initial reaction was, and I said this on the Anthony Sane show. He asked me about it, and I said, there's a level of, it's easy to hire people that you know. It's easy to hire
Very.
people that you know their wives, you know their families, you know what kind of man they are, what kind of woman they are. Like, you know that person. It's easy
Mhm.
to hire that person. Familiarity makes, like, in all aspects of life, it's not really anymore like what you know, it's who you know,
Mhm.
right? Like, and
Sure.
that's kind of how those things happen. So when names like Adam Walker, when names like Jeff Crane, who did a awesome job as the interim athletic
Yeah.
director during the time that he was in that role, um, it just kind of made sense, right? Like, this is just going to happen this way. This is what's going to happen. When Ed Scott was announced, my initial thought was, this guy must have been hella impressive in
For
his
sure.
interviews, right?
Yeah.
Because it is them basically saying, we know these guys, we know Adam Walker, we know Jeff Crane, but we believe so much in what you are saying that we're going to jump out and take a leap of faith here. That's the initial thought process that I had about the whole situation. And then I heard his press conference. TJ.
Yeah. I mean, this dude. I saw tweets. People like, I'm about to run through a wall for this guy. I've never even met
Holy,
him. Like, one guy said that he was
oh
man,
man.
they said he was Herman Boone. Like, he
Oh,
was Denzel from Remember the
remember the
Titans. And he was
Titans,
like, this
man.
this is spot on to who this guy is. And I was like, dang, I kind of get that vibe, honestly. Like, he's great. And it's so easy to do the talking, right? I get that, right? There's a number of guys you could put out there that will crush the interview. Um, and then they just kind of fall flat. I don't think that's going to happen here. Like, this
No.
guy has me believing real early on.
Listen, man, you need, as an athletic director, you need relationships, and you need to be able to, like, what we know about him is he's an incredible fundraiser, which makes sense because I was about ready to sign my whole life insurance policy over to him. He's able to, like, talk to people, but the relationships he has with the ACC, he talks about that a little bit. But one
Mhm.
of the things about an athletic director is you need somebody who could stand in front of a large group of people and sell a vision, right? And
Sure.
listen, I think we want to applaud it at Bluff City Media, at Tigers Untapped. We want to applaud the work that Laird Beach did. He did a lot of really good things while he
Yeah,
was
of
at
course.
Memphis. But Laird very rarely won the press conference. Like, let's be frank about it. He very rarely won
Yeah.
the press conference. And that, to me, in that role, it's a massive part of the job, right? Is being able to win those press conferences, because what you're doing is you are able to sell a vision, right? Like, I remember sitting in the football facility when the president of the university and Laird Beach came in and did the presentation about kind of conference realignment, the Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium, things like that. And it just felt woefully inadequate in terms of some of the conversations that they were having. And um, I say all that to say, I was massively encouraged and inspired by Dr. Ed Scott and some of the things that he said. What stuck out to you mainly?
I mean, there's a couple of things. I know that he basically came out and said, like, Memphis is ready to jump to a new conference. Like, what are we waiting on here? Like, you've got it academically. Um, what was it? Financially, like, they have the backing. They can do this. Like, all you're waiting on the call. Like, you're just waiting on the call.
Right.
And look, I've been saying it forever now. And Trey's made fun of me for the longest time ever. I'm tired of being the Big 12's booty call.
Mm-hmm.
And then we go out and we grab someone directly from the ACC. And I don't think it is a coincidence.
I don't think so either.
Like, this dude had a hell of an interview, blew out guys that you had personal relationships with, to your point that you just made. And he has direct ties with a conference that honestly would be great for you. Memphis and Louisville back together, assuming Louisville somehow sticks around. I don't know where the hell they would go. I don't know who wants them. They're trash. I'd love to bring that back, dude. How fun would that be? Competing with Georgia Tech in events. I'm trying to think of someone more geographical. That's a new one. I'm assuming you're going to bring along Tulane or a USF type of situation, so you get familiarity there as well. So
Right.
he definitely sold a vision. To your point, like everything he says has me believing. I have not seen a single negative word, anything about him. Everyone that has heard him talk is like, all right, this guy's got it.
Yeah.
Which, again, back to your point, Laird was great. I think if you actually sit down and look at it, he was an easy target for a lot of people to kind of make fun of and pick at and things like that. But he didn't like to have a lot of conversation. People said he was a little awkward in public, but on paper he was a great AD. I don't think you're gonna have
you don't go to Missouri.
issue.
You don't get picked up to go to
Yeah.
Missouri if you're a bad AD. Let's be real about that.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
If you're worried about the social aspect of it, I don't think you're going to have that problem with Ed Scott. I really don't.
One last question about Ed Scott in particular, because it was brought up in the press conference. I want to ask you about it as well, because we can have this conversation. I've had this conversation with Anthony on his show. Does it help that he's the first black AD for?
I knew you were going to ask.
How number one, I think we can say legitimately it's a super important aspect of the hire. I think it's very important. I think it's an important move by the University of Memphis. Sure. How important is it to you? Like, does that say anything to you about Memphis as a whole, as a university?
Well, I mean, I don't think they hired him because he's black.
Of course.
I think that's obvious, right? Let's clear that one.
Yeah.
I do think that it's not something that you can ignore, right? I mean, in a city where African Americans are the majority, right? I think it's nice for them to see someone in that position succeeding, someone that looks like them, talks like them, acts like them kind of situation. I think that's the mindset that it plays perfectly into what kind of the city of Memphis wants and embodies. Like, because we've heard fans say that, like, that's what we love about Penny Hardaway is he is us. He looks like us, talks like us, dresses like us.
Representation.
And they they get a personal bond with Penny. And I think that you're going to get this not only with the fans, but I think even the athletes as well. They're going to bond with him.
We saw that in the video that the football team put out.
Yeah, of the football team. Yeah, of course. I mean, and he mentions it.
Yeah, he mentioned it in his press conference. He said he very clearly said, "Listen, I'm not a athletic director for black students. I'm an athletic director for all students, right?" But you see him walk into the facility, in the football facility, and have a meeting with a few of the players. It looked like it was more, it was kind of the, maybe the elder statesmen of the team that were there, right? It wasn't the entire team. It was like, some of the major guys out there. But you look at their reaction. A lot of the black players that were there. You look at their reaction, their excitement, man. I felt it. It was visceral through the screen. I was like, this has got to be a pretty cool moment for those guys, and I appreciate that fact. I think that's a real thing. And I don't think that's something that needs to be just like downplayed. I think that's a real thing. And I think it's a good move by the University of Memphis. Like, we're not hiring this guy because he's black, but hey, man, sure as hell doesn't hurt.
We're not going to ignore it.
Right? Yeah. Let's embrace it. Right. Like, let's embrace that. On
a much smaller scale, it was kind of like, Obama becoming the president kind of situation thing.
Right.
On a much smaller scale. Like, let me reiterate that 50,000 times, but I definitely saw, comments like that on Twitter. They're like, finally, some representation kind of situation.
Yeah. I love it. All right, let's take a few steps back or a few steps forward on this and go, okay. With Dr. Ed Scott being hired as athletic director for the University of Memphis, what are your expectations in terms of what the athletic department is going to look like moving forward? Are we going to see you think we're going to see a lot of old names that have been a part of the athletic department for a long time still there? Or do you think that it's kind of a situation where Dr. Scott's going to come in and maybe bring in some people that he knows, he trusts, that he has worked with in the past? Like, what are your expectations on that?
Yeah. I mean, I think that anytime there is turnover, right? Let's say AD aside, like if, Ryan Silverfield, when he took the job, like he didn't just carry over the whole staff.
Right.
He brought in some guys that he knew and he trusted and things like that. Same with Penny.
Yeah.
I think it should be the same with Ed Scott. Like, it's not, and this is kind of twofold, right? A new AD comes in, the old AD went out
Yeah.
very well. He could take all of the guys that
Yeah.
Laird could take the people that he
Right.
knows and he trusts at Memphis and carry them to Mizzou.
Right.
Ed Scott's going to come in and say, hey, I've got friends over there in Virginia. I got people I've worked with at, what was it? Morgan
Morgantown.
State? Morgantown?
He was at West Virginia in Morgantown, and then he went to shoot.
I think we're making stuff up at this point.
Are we making
You get
stuff
my
up?
point.
Yeah,
I think so. I think he could easily find people that he has worked with, and he's like, that's who I want. That's who I need. This guy's great at building communications out with the alumni base. This woman is perfect for helping me raise capital funds for the athletic village, stuff like that. So I think he 100% should have the right to bring in a new staff. But that's not to say he won't retain anyone as well. Like when you come in, they could very well say, hey, look, this guy's been here with us for 30 years.
Right.
Well, I'm making up numbers, but he's been great, very loyal to us. Ed Scott, sure, no problem. I have no problem keeping him. If you trust him, I trust him. So,
right.
What about you?
I think it's interesting because you've got guys. This is where it's going to be a little bit interesting to see what happens, because if we can just speak bluntly about the situation, obviously you had a bunch of guys who worked as assistant athletic directors under Laird Veach, who were in the running to be the next athletic director. And so I'm sure that there's levels of, who's going to get the job. Like, hey, let's just give it, for instance here, Jeff Crane's the interim director, right? Interim athletic director. And a guy like Adam Walker gets an interview. I can guarantee there's probably conversations between the two of them. Like, hey man, if you get this job, I'm staying here and I'm going to work with you. Right. Like 100%. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Makes sense. Now that neither one of them have gotten the job, it would not surprise me if there were conversations already happening about, going and working with his previous boss, so it wouldn't surprise me if you saw a bunch of guys that were under, working with Laird Veach end up with Laird Veach over in Missouri. And I think that's a reality of the situation. I don't think that has anything to do with anything negative happening with, the University of Memphis Athletic Department or even Ed Scott being hired. I think this happens, man. Like, I mean, how many times have we seen athletic directors come in and even change over jobs in terms of head coaches, right? Like, I want to get my guy in, right? Like, I want to bring my guy in. Now, I don't think Ryan Silverfield and specifically Penny Hardaway have anything to worry about in that regard, but I do think there's probably going to be a lot of turnover, and I think that it's going to be fine. I think it's okay. And I think Ed Scott has every right to be able to kind of fashion his athletic department the way that he wants to.
Yeah. And just to kind of pivot off that, everyone who may or may not leave to go to Mizzou, they have every right to do that too, right? 100%. If they feel that it's better for them and for their professional growth and things like that, like you're definitely going to get plenty of visibility at Mizzou. So shout out to them, whatever, you are not bound by loyalty here. No one's going to get mad if you were to leave and take the Mizzou associate AD job or whatever. So to your point, I would actually
celebrate.
Yeah. Like I would almost expect to see some names go that way.
100%. All right, brother. Hey, let's take a real quick break. When we come back, we got some basketball stuff to talk about, and let's get into that beer. You want to take a break?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Is this the biggest year in the history of the Memphis football program?
I think it becomes absolutely not only what they could accomplish this year. When you just look for face value this season, like this is the first time Memphis could ever legitimately compete for a national championship or a college football playoff spot.
Right.
I just think like this could be a massive turning point for this program if everything goes to plan and they maybe even exceed expectations. There's never been an opportunity at a national championship. You've never been able to entice players of this caliber from an NIL standpoint. Ryan just got his extension. How does it all look when it comes together? I think that it breeds a very exciting time, but also I think every game is going to be, everybody's just sort of a little bit nervous watching every single game because every single game is going to matter.
Tune in to On the Bluff with Christian Fowler and Gabe Kuhn every Tuesday at 12 p.m. on the Bluff City Media YouTube channel.
I haven't done one Instagram post.
No?
yet.
And you're on the IG, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I've not one. And I don't even know like what, how. No.
Take a picture. And we can put it on the IG.
Should be our first. Should be my first post. Here we go.
Yeah, there we are. We just took a picture.
So what do you do now?
All right, well, now you got to go to Instagram. Boom. And then write a little something cute.
Back in the studio.
Back in the studio. That's good. That's good.
Then hit OK.
Yes. And then share. And there you go. You've posted. How about that? You just posted your first Instagram, and I'm in it. I'm honored. That's awesome. All right. Hey, we got...
Tune in to the Night Court podcast with your hosts, Rob Fisher and Brevin Knight, on the Bluff City Media YouTube channel.
We back.
We are back. I watched Weird Back the other day, by the way. I don't know if you remember that movie.
No, I haven't seen that movie.
It's after your time, maybe. It was a dinosaur movie, cartoonish. Probably from like
Wait
the
a second.
90s.
Let's not gloss over that. You just call me old. You just said before.
It's relative. It's relative.
your
Dude.
time.
You're a little bit older than me. So maybe it was just in a nice little gap. You had moved on to Power Rangers or Ninja Turtles, and I was still watching dinosaur movies. Littlefoot is his name. Sarah Petrie. Shout out to We're Back.
Never have heard of that. That's
the OGs will know.
The OGs will know. The millennials will. See, I'm like literally 1981 was like, it's like the date, right? Like it's like the month of 1981 in which you're born. So I'm like right on the edge of being millennial / is it Gen X? Is that, or is it,
No,
who was it?
I don't know. I'm looking it up because I was sitting here thinking, I was like, can he so old? I don't even know what
I know
like demographic he fits into. Yeah, it is Gen X. You're right. You're right.
Generation Ancient. Is that what it is?
It's X. So
Gen
this
X.
is what's weirdest. I don't understand. Millennials, we picked up millennials and we just don't get the Y. If you're an X, that makes me a Y. And these new kids, these weirdos, they're all
weirdos.
Y. They're
all
Z's.
Z's. Is it Z or what's the newest generation? Is it Z is the newest one?
Well, Gen Z, well, there's kids being born every year, Kenneth.
But it's every 25
My
years.
kids
right?
are not.
Isn't that the generation?
What generation? They're like alpha. I think they're alpha or beta.
Generation Alpha. Yep, that's what it is. A bunch of alphas running around.
That's sick, honestly.
Listen, I am not one to really subscribe to that kind of stuff very often. In terms of like kind of putting people in a box based on when they were born and kind of the generation in which they grew up in. Bro,
so sick.
Bro. It is wild the conversations I have to have with some of these Gen Zers and Gen Alphas is like it's crazy, man.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. Things are different, man. They have the internet.
Times have changed.
Imagine if you had the internet your entire youth.
Did you grow up with the internet your entire life? When did
no, we got internet in like 95. I remember AOL 93 or 95. It was like the big thing, like dial up. First of all, they don't have to understand dial up.
Right.
Have you guys sat and thought about this? Like you used to not be able to be on the internet and the phone at the same time. Like you'd be crushing the chat, AOL chat, and someone's like, get off the damn internet. I got to make a phone call.
I got to make a phone call. What a wild time that was.
I know.
I mean,
right?
a lot of folks don't even remember roaming charges on cell phones.
Don't call collect.
Like
you remember the collect telephone commercials?
Dude, crazy. All right, let's get to some basketball. And probably the least surprising news of all time.
Yeah.
Caleb Mills's waiver was denied today.
Dun, dun,
Are you stunned?
Maybe not stunned. I think we kind of expected it to be declined, right? Like I do get that there was he only played a handful of games for Memphis, but I think it's like if you play 3 games or something like that, like you're pretty much done. Like I don't remember the percentage. Is it 10% of the games?
I think it's something close to that. I think it might have been a little bit more than 3. I think it might be like 8, maybe.
Okay.
So maybe it's
well,
not 10.
regardless, he played
It
almost.
it wouldn't be
half the season.
10%. It maybe not 8 then. Maybe it's like 4. You know what I'm saying? Like something like that.
Yeah. Well, he played in 14 games, so
Right.
I think mathematically we knew that wasn't going to happen, and he had already had the season at Houston with the 4 games. That's how we got the 5th year kind of situation. It felt like.
I don't think that was the 5th year though. He was a grad transfer.
Oh, he just got the grad transfer.
That's what this waiver was. This waiver was not about his
Yeah,
injuries.
that was the argument. Okay.
The waiver was about the 2nd year at Houston.
Yeah.
The waiver was about the fact that he didn't play. He only played 4 games in the 2nd year at Houston. From what I understand, and I might be wrong on this, but from what I understand, it was more so he had the ankle injury his 2nd year at Houston, left Houston, and ultimately ended up at Florida State transferring.
Yeah.
But I think that he was saying basically that there were issues. Like I think there was some I don't know exactly what it was, but it was more so not an injury issue. It was a kind of a mental health, like family waiver that he was requesting for that 2nd year at Houston. And I think most of us are not surprised because he's played 3 more years since then, right? Like he played 2 at Florida State and 1 year at Memphis. And so, I suspect that he probably might. I suspect that waiver might have been granted if he had actually applied for it, prior to, maybe his grad transfer year or maybe even his 2nd year at Florida State. But, I don't think anybody's really that surprised that he did it. So,
yeah, I'd probably transfer too if like Sasser sitting right there next to me. I got an ankle injury.
Quentin Grimes was there.
Grimes is there. What's his name? Jamal
Shed was there.
Shed was there. Yeah, like I think I'm transferring too.
I would probably transfer.
Freaking loaded guards.
Yeah, man. But I mean, let's not forget though how good he was his freshman year at Houston. Man, we played. I think the Memphis Tigers played him twice, and God, he was so good. I remember just being like kind of in awe of his game. He was just so smooth with the ball. But
definitely.
In other
one
news,
of the bigger like what could have been for Memphis basketball in the Penny era, right? Obviously, James Wiseman. I'd put it up there number 1, having that season. But I think if you don't lose Mills, I mean, that's where a lot of people thought this last season kind of broke down. Was like the moment Mills got hurt is when we shit the bed. I think if you track it, it doesn't really track that well, but it definitely plays a part, right? I mean,
do you think so?
He was playing
how
well
much? If you could give a percentage, like what percentage of? Because I know that Penny like to use that injury as an excuse. I think for some of the issues that they were having. How much weight do you put towards that? In terms of losing Caleb Mills, losing his seniority, his I guess his experience out there on the court. How much did that? How much do you think it played a role?
Well, I mean, you lose so much because I think although he wasn't, he wasn't starting every game, but he just gave you so much from a versatile defensive position, right? Like he could guard so many different positions. He was scoring. It wasn't like he was just going out and only playing defense. He was giving you some points. He could facilitate a little bit if needed. I think he did. He was a very good glue guy. And without him, you didn't really have a glue guy, right? Like you had some moments, obviously David Jones just going wild.
Sorry.
That was good. David Jones going wild. There are a couple games when Jelly Fam had a couple, it kind of went crazy for a little bit there, but it would have been nice to have a bit of consistency from someone who was able to defend when there were moments where we could not defend anybody. So
if you remember,
10%, like, I mean,
I think the biggest area that losing Caleb hurt the team was that it severely limited Penny's ability to play small, right? Like, I do think that his lineups were impacted by not having Caleb Mills, because you were able to put Caleb, who is an adequate ball handler / playmaker and leader on the court, at the 3 or the 4, and they were able to go relatively small. And he was strong enough and big enough to guard some of those bigger players out there. So I do think that in terms of leadership, in terms of like locker room, I don't put a whole lot of weight into that, because we're talking about a team that had an average age of like 23 years old.
Yeah, they were grown men.
Like, they were grown men. Like, come on. Like, if Caleb was the glue for that, then the issues were larger. But I think in terms of what Penny, the lineups that he could put on the floor, not having Caleb out there kind of severely limited, because then it was after Caleb got injured that you started seeing him even throw out lineups with Malcolm and Jordan and Nick out there at the same time. And then you add Naquan to the equation, and it was Naquan, Malcolm, and Nick out there at the same time. He went from like playing small ball to like playing ultra big as hell out there, you know? So I definitely think that played a role in it. But that's neither here nor there, man. It's a new team.
100%.
Obviously losing Caleb, obviously getting Caleb on this roster would have been awesome. But once again, Caleb Mills' waiver was denied on Tuesday. It was announced. Another thing happened this week.
Go ahead. No, I think you're going to say what I was going to say. Go ahead.
Go for it. No, you got it, man.
You go.
Speaking of things that are not surprising at all, Arthur Kaluma chose to not play for Memphis, which apparently was never an option if you listen to other reporters. Listen, whatever. Apparently Arthur Kaluma's camp was relaying to everybody that Memphis was heavily in the mix, and Penny Hardaway was like, no, we're not. We've never even talked, right? But I don't put a whole lot of validity into that. I think they actually absolutely had conversations with Arthur Kaluma. Ultimately, Arthur Kaluma, Kansas State transfer, grad transfer, has ultimately chosen to play in Texas. And obviously, I think the reports were coming out that Arthur Kaluma's NIL ask was overwhelmingly too big. And so just not really necessarily worth the price that he would have cost to have him come here. But Arthur Kaluma is not going to be on this roster. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, it would have been nice to have him. I mean, he's 6'7", 6'8".
Yeah.
Right. He's a big body you could put out there. Penny likes these long bodied individuals. It feels like you could have someone, not the exact same, but there were times where he was basically putting Naquan at the 3 and just said, spread your arms, dude. Just run around with your arms wide out and just cover half the damn court. It felt like that at times. So you would have had a very large, very long body you could put out there. A skilled player, right? This is a guy that was he a former 5-star or 4-star? I think it was 5-star, right?
I think he was a 5-star, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. So a very talented player at one point, although it seemingly maybe has not lived up to that rating, however you want to guide that. But it'd have been nice, right? I think if you were to look at the roster composition today and said, hey, where do we think we could add one player and get a little bit better? It was, probably at the position that Kaluma would play, that wing player, the 3 spot kind of situation that was left by David.
Right. Yeah, no, I think definitely he fits the role. I think a position group that this team lacks depth in. Let me ask you this. There's 3 spots that are still available, 3 scholarships still open and available to Penny. One of the things we know about Penny is that he likes to keep at least one roster spot or one scholarship open for kind of like what happened with Naquan Tomlin this last year.
Yeah, you should get weird, dude.
Let's get super strange with it. But in terms of the roster that they have in place now, do you think it's a finalized roster? Do you think there's, or you think Penny and Rick Stansberry are actively looking for anybody else that can play a massive role for the team in terms of usage and play time?
You right at the very end, you were saying exactly what I wanted you to, and then you threw in a little bit.
Oh,
where you said a massive role. I don't know that there's anyone out there right now that is able to give you a massive they can play that role, right? I mean, I think there's enough bodies on the roster today that you have a competent team. Could it be better? Sure. Like, right, there's somebody out there that could make this team just a little bit better. I don't know who would be out there today that you could add to the roster and be like, yep, that's the guy who's going to play 30 minutes a game, right?
Yeah.
So it's not a finished product because, as you mentioned, they do have 3 spots or 2 spots available. I do think they could make some additions. What those additions will be, probably just depth more than anything, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. How are you feeling about it? Like, in terms of, let's go with this. Super early, way too early to even start having this discussion, but give me a starting five. If the team were to stand pat kind of as it is right now, give me a starting five.
However you want to label the combo of Hunter and Haggerty. Like, I don't know who you want to call point guard, who's the shooting guard in that argument.
I mean, I think clearly Tyrese Hunter would be the starting point guard for the team.
Yeah, I think they're both going to control the ball, but whatever.
100%.
I think Colby Rogers makes the most sense to be that starting 3. I think people kind of forget that he's on the team at times because you're kind of blinded by the idea of having a Kaluma. But
because
he's a proven guy who's just
before, right? Shots. Like, I think that's what
you think he's going to be a 4. Is that what you just said?
No, I said because he's only 6'4". I think people are like,
well, he's going to be a 4. I was like, a Draymond 4, maybe.
Yeah, who are we talking about? No, I think the problem I think that a lot of folks have with Colby Rogers being the starter is that he's not your prototypical, 6'6", 6'7", 6'8", guy. So
yeah.
But do you think Colby? I mean, I agree with you. I mean, what other option do they have on this team right now?
Who are you going to put out there, right?
Yeah.
Where are we at? We're at the.
Let me ask you this. And I know you hate this. I know you hate it. But Nick Jourdain has been mentioned as a potential wing player for this team.
I don't see it. I don't see the lateral mobility, right? I mean, you could get away with that, with some other players that are just a little bit more mobile.
Mm-hmm.
Not to,
Are you Zach Edey? Are you Zach Edey and Nick Jourdain right now?
No. It's just more so I think Jourdain could have stayed in front of David Jones last year. No, probably not. I don't think he would have been able to stop David Jones from scoring. So I just don't think it's a good fit, right? I think Jourdain is a 4, is a natural fit, and he could be a small 5. I don't think he could go the other way around.
Okay.
Right. And then so I think he is a 4. And then 5 is danger zone. It's got to be danger zone. Right.
So who starts at the 4 then? Who starts?
I think Jourdain.
Do you, or do you think Tyreek Smith?
It depends who they play. They'll probably change that up 1,000 times. But if you want mobility and you want to run fast, I think Smith is probably going to be your better bet.
Mm-hmm.
This Tyreek Smith, he just looks like a rim runner, right? He's very mobile in the way that he is built out. And then obviously, how does that work with Musa? I think Musa and Tyreek Smith could also kind of run together at times. So it just kind of depends what you're looking for. But I think if you wanted to pick out the most consistent starting 5, Hunter, Haggerty, Rogers, Jourdain, and Danger today, right?
Where do you feel the most I mean, I think both of us have said that the wing position, the small wing position is probably where they lack the most depth in terms of, just having Colby Rogers on the team right now to fulfill that role. The strengths of this team, I think, are clearly the front court and the back court in terms of your 1, 2, 4, 5, right? Where do you feel most confident about? Because I think you think that front court is getting overlooked a little bit in terms of the kind of player that Penny has brought in.
No, I actually don't mind the front court. I think Danger is very skilled.
I think the front court is probably going to be one of their biggest strengths.
Yeah. I think Danger is very skilled for who he is. Musa is exactly what you think he is. Like, he's just going to be there to defend, block shots, rebounds. Tyreek Smith can do a little bit of everything. Maybe not that much offensively. You know what you got in Jourdain. He's shown that he can stretch it out. He's mobile to an extent. Okay. I think I question once you start getting into guard rotations. Let's say there's a moment where Hunter goes down, he's tired, then you're going to have a little shift, and Haggerty's now controlling the ball.
Right.
Who is that next guy? Especially if Okogie can't go, he's still hurt. Whatever happens with that, I think he'll probably be fine. But if there's ever a situation where he's banged up, or it's Haggerty that's banged up, that you're going to be relying on Stansberry. You're going to be relying on Jared Harris. Like, what are we doing here at the? Hopefully it doesn't get to that, but
I do think Jared Harris will play more of a role than what I think even the coaches expected him to this year. I think he's going to be forced into that, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's possible. Right, you don't want that from a true freshman, right? We've seen it last year. Yeah. They chose not to play
Carl.
Carl, thank you. And there are moments and times where you absolutely could have played Carl, and you didn't play Carl. But Carl
will be looking pretty nice for this team right about now, wouldn't he?
Carl would be looking very nice for this team right now, just to the fact that he could play a couple different spots. But I do worry about the Okogie injury. Mostly because I don't know when he's coming back. Right. When he comes back, what kind of shape he's going to be in.
And shoulder injuries are notorious. Shoulder injuries are notoriously like slow recovery, man. Like,
especially in the sport where you need to have your arms above your damn head.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So that does kind of worry me. That 2-3 wing position, I think, is probably where I'd put the biggest red flag. And I wouldn't be one bit shocked if somehow they hit the portal and found some rando who is a shooting guard,
who doesn't want $4 million in NIL money.
Yeah, just some random guy. Like, I'm talking like someone you probably haven't even heard of, but he's played in 60 collegiate basketball games already.
Right,
wasn't great, but he's played in games. Just bring him in.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm looking at the lineup right now. I'm looking at the roster right now. It is. I said this on the Bluff Show a few weeks ago, but I do think that Penny is this roster being finalized. If it's finalized as it is now in terms of like major minute guys that are expected to produce, I don't think we're going to have a whole lot of conversations around why is Penny playing 12 people, right? Like, why is he playing? Sure. Cut his rotations down. We hear that every single year. This definitely feels like a team that is going to be extremely top heavy. And there's going to be a ton of expectations. I mean, honestly, does this not feel like the 2022 season, like that roster, but just with better ancillary parts? I think we can clearly say that the role players have been upgraded very, very, very much. So compared to, listen, man, I thought DeMario Franklin was an awesome kid, but come on. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
sure.
You're talking about a guy who had no business playing the minutes he played for this Tiger team, but
sure. Yeah, go out and give me freaking Ray Allen III. He's out there right now.
There you go.
He played in one game at Rhode Island. I don't care. He's Ray Allen's son. Bring him in.
Yeah,
that's a random name I just stumbled upon.
It's a very random name.
I just saw his Ray Allen III.
Is that Ray Allen's son.
Yeah, it's quite literally his son. Yeah, that's the only
Hey,
reason I
man.
mentioned him.
Hey, come on.
He's got it in his genes. He's got to be great.
Got to be a good player. But no, I mean, I think that I do think, and as much as we don't know a lot about Dane Danger, I think that I think that most of us are expecting good things and big things out of him. You know, based on kind of what we've seen from film, you know, that he had. But I think I'm really not concerned about that front court. I think that front court is going to be a major strength for this team this year. But has expectations dropped a little bit for you, not getting David, not having Arthur, not having, you know, the Baraka Okogie injury? Like, has the Baraka Okogie injury, has your expectations kind of dwindled a little bit going into the camp?
No, I don't think so. I mean, my expectations are conference championship, right? You don't have a Houston in front of you. Like, who are we talking? We're battling UAB,
right?
Like, are we going against USF? Like, who is there in front of us from a conference foe perspective? Like, who's standing in our way? Like, the Memphis has no reason to not be competing for a conference championship. And I think this roster, the way it's constructed today, even if we have notated it does have some weak spots and it does have a couple of roster spots open, I still think that they have enough talent right now to be able to compete for the conference title. So
do you think this roster is kind of has kind of been victimized by the fact that their best player in the portal transferred to Memphis was the first transfer to Memphis in the portal season, and PJ Haggerty? Like, he hasn't, like, there hasn't been a ton of major splashes, but it feels like to me that going into this season that PJ Haggerty is going to be the guy that this roster flow ancillary parts around it to kind of, you know, fit around him. But yet it's been so long since he committed. I mean, he was the first commitment out of the gate from Penny Hardaway. Do you think there's a level of that kind of, we've kind of forgotten about the excitement of PJ Haggerty committing to the Tigers?
Yeah, I think so. And that's mostly because, like, if you were to look back last year at the AAC basketball statistics, find everyone in AAC basketball last year, you got David Jones at the top, right? He was scoring left and right, and that's all you noticed, right? As Memphis fans, we had these blue tinted glasses. All we saw was David Jones lighting it up, and we kind of forget that PJ Haggerty, I think, was right there with David in terms of points per game. Like, he was right there with him. He is a damn good player. Granted, he was playing on a bad team. I don't know how much of that plays into it, and I do think some people are they're concerned that, like, oh yeah, this guy's good, but, like, is he good because he was just getting a ton of volume shots on a bad team? Like, kind of how does that stuff play into it? You know, there are concerns. There are people that are concerned, and I get those concerns. I'm not a bit concerned because I think PJ Haggerty's awesome. I think what you grab around him is awesome. Tyrese Hunter is good. I think Colby Rogers is someone that we again, I mentioned earlier, we forget about that, but that is an electric shooter. Dane Danger is a very, very skilled big man that I think a lot of people are going to kind of forget about, and maybe not forget about, but just not consider, because maybe we didn't see him that much, considering he wasn't in the American. Who the hell is watching, you know, Indiana basketball or Illinois basketball?
Right.
Like, no one's watching them. So it's easy to kind of forget about some of the pieces that you've added, but I think we're going to be a decently good team, and I think it's a well balanced team. I don't think it's not like last year's team seemed like it was going to be Jelly Fam and David versus the world, and the year before that it seemed like it was going to be DeAndre and Kendrick versus the world. And now you kind of have more pieces. It's a more balanced roster. So I think that it's actually going to lead to a better potential success.
I agree. All right, last basketball topic before we move on to Adjective Animal. Is that how you say it? Yeah.
Adjective Animal, man.
There has been obviously the talk in Memphis over the last few weeks has been the NBA draft, the Grizzlies, who they got their haul of players. But let's not forget, man, there are plenty of Memphis Tigers that are in the NBA. Free agency has started. A lot has happened in terms of players that are in the NBA that played for the University of Memphis. Lester Quinones obviously started off as a two-way, maybe a Exhibit 10 contract with the Golden State Warriors G League team. Got a two-way contract as he, went through. He was undrafted, went through their whole process, got a two-way contract, and I think was ranked, if I'm correct about this, was ranked as one of the most improved players in the G League over in his second year with the Santa Cruz team. Got a few minutes with the Golden State Warriors this past year, and he has now been. They didn't pick up his contract, so he's a free agent. Hearing reports that the Philadelphia 76ers are interested in him. Guess who else is on the Philadelphia 76ers Summer League team? David Jones.
Who's that?
David Jones. So David Jones went undrafted. Can we be frank? I don't think anybody's surprised that he went undrafted. Right?
No.
Okay.
No.
But he got picked up.
6'4" wing.
He's the 6'4" non-dribbling three. Naquan Tomlin was in the draft. He also went undrafted, but he got picked up by the Cleveland Cavaliers to play for their summer league team. We've got who else? Precious Achiuwa played for the New York Knicks this past year, made a deep run in the NBA playoffs. He was his team option was not picked up, but rumors are now that Isaiah Hartenstein is playing for, he went to the OKC Thunder, that the Knicks are really interested in bringing Precious Achiuwa back. There's a ton of players. James Wiseman got picked up by, where did he go? Indiana, signed a 2-year guaranteed contract with Indiana. Good for James Wiseman. Let's get to Naquan and David for a second, man. Any expectations? Do you think they're going to get any run in the summer league? Do you see Naquan or David having the chance to get a two-way contract or get an Exhibit 10 contract with the G League team?
It's tough. Like, I definitely think they're going to get run, but it's a tough situation because if you're at David Jones, in reality, you need the ball in your hand. And if you're trying to be a solid team player and all you're doing is facilitating and trying to pass it out, I'm not sure there's much benefit for David in the NBA if he's right. Like, I say this because I'm trying not to sound like a dick, but David needs the ball in his hand. Like, he needs the ball in his hand. Like, if he's out there passing it, he's not very helpful. Like, yes, he can be a very good spot up shooter, but again, that kind of comes back to the ball being in his hand.
Right.
I do think Naquan probably has a better chance in terms of being an NBA player just because of his skill set. Right. Like, we saw Tarek Black become an NBA player, and kind of blew up for a little bit there, like in a small little span of time.
For the Rockets and for the Lakers. Yep.
Yeah, like he has a very good frame. He's long, he's mobile. I mean, hell, we were talking about him playing the 3 earlier. So I think if he finds his niche and says, just realizes like, hey, I am a long body. I need a rebound, defend. Like, I think he can make his mark in the NBA. And that's not to say that David can't. If you look at it all up, like, I think David probably has a better argument to be an NBA player, but I think Naquan has a better chance, if that makes any sense at all.
And it does feel like Cleveland they kind of give chances to guys who have those kind of like nebulous positions, like even an Amani Bates, right? Like, Amani came in and got some run with Cleveland, made their G League team. I suspect Naquan will probably get picked up, to be honest with you, because he is such a kind of his skill set is so unique in that he's 6'11", but can dribble and shoot and, can play hard defense. And I do suspect, like you said, David, you would suspect that David's abilities would shine in a situation like that. But I think there's just so many things that he can't control that are going to work in not in his favor. that it just wouldn't surprise me to see Naquan kind of latch on to a G League team and David might not, to be frank about it. But I do suspect that they'll get plenty of run in this summer league that starts on Monday. So that'll be fun to see.
Did David Jones get the 2-way deal?
No, he did not.
Or
He
is
just
he
got
just-
picked up for summer league. Yeah.
I thought he got a 2-way deal because I'm sitting there thinking like kind of second guess everything I said because I was like, I'm pretty sure he got the 2-way deal. And if he gets a 2-way deal, that's a pretty damn good deal. Like, I mean, that's good money. Why did I think he got the 2-way deal? I thought I saw that on Twitter.
Well, because I think that was the conversation we've had forever about David is that, his option is either come back to Memphis or get a 2-way. Well, he didn't get either. Like he's a summer league player. Let me check. I want to make sure because I don't want to be wrong about that, but I'm almost positive he did not get a 2-way.
Dude, Philadelphia 76ers new 2-way player, David Jones.
Oh, well then I'm wrong.
This dude out here
spreading falsities about our guy.
Hey,
Yep, he got a 2-way. Yep, you're right. Hey, look, come on, man. Congratulations to David Jones. Then, my apologies, David.
2-way's great, man. 2-way's great. That's a good position to be in financially, and also just you can get called up, right? I mean, that's real stuff.
Yep. Congrats to David Jones. All right, brother. Let's get to this beer.
Yeah.
You didn't.
So should you can. I don't know if you can even, if it does. Here we go. It's like a little fish down here. A little guppy or something. I don't know what that is.
Is that supposed to be like a maze or is that just a bunch of like coral? A
bunny.
Oh, wow. There's a bunny in there. Never mind.
I don't know what this guy is. Oh, there's a wolf here, a dog. Pretty cool can. I will deduct a couple points just due to the fact that we're borrowing another can. Maybe that's recycling in a way.
Man.
Maybe I should give it bonus points. We'll break even actually. Doing this.
Oh, so you just took. Okay, wow, that was a quick turnaround.
Was that a little alligator? Yeah, I was going to deduct points because you're just throwing a label on another can, but in reality, you could have been like, "All right, well, we're just gonna
let's save the earth, man."
Well, I don't know how much aluminum.
One adjective animal at a time.
Yeah, I'm just gonna break even on that. It's a kind of a wild, trippy little label here. I kind of like it.
Do you like it?
I think I do.
The pink is just a lot, man. Like it's a lot.
It is a lot. I don't get the background on it. I tried looking it up and I didn't. I mean, nothing popped up on me, right? Adjective animal. It just tells you what kind of beer it is. I was thinking maybe I got some background, but it does go with some slight alliteration with grumpy giraffe, funny ferrets. All right, that's about it. Ostentatious ocelot. Cantankerous Mundi. Like what? Why are you making me say these words? It's got some fun stuff on it. I just the can. I like the pink a little bit. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay,
it is a lot. I do agree with that. We broke even on the recycling. Yeah. Both pro and con there. Let's say it's like a 6.2 can. Nothing too bad. Kind of like it.
Yep.
Which is about on par with where I've been with some of the more recent cans. This is a good beer.
Is it?
So it is it's a double IPA, which Trey would have been pissed about it. I don't think he would have liked the double IPA. So he's probably glad that he's not here today.
Right.
It's a dry hopped ale or a dry hopped IPA.
So it's a potent flavor. Like it's got a little bit of a kick to it, huh?
Yeah, you could say that. I like IPAs though, so I think it's actually a pretty good flavor, honestly. And I don't think I've ever had this beer either, which is surprising because I know I've seen it a bunch. I thought it was pretty good though. I definitely would drink 2 of them. I could see it not being for anyone that likes like super hoppy beer. There, you can definitely kind of take some hop here. I said the can was 6.2, so I'd probably put this at like 6.3.
Okay.
Just a little bit higher. Or no, I'm sorry.
Where does that
7.3.
rank in terms?
7.3. 7.3.
Oh, 7.3. I was like, that's pretty low, right? 6.3 is pretty low in a beer.
I said 6.3. I meant 7.3.
Got you.
Yeah, 7.3. I can have 2 of them, so it's got to be a 7 by default. I think the problem is it wasn't the coldest it probably could have been. That's on me. I shouldn't hurt the beer for it. But 7.3, I could even probably talk myself into a 7.4. But it's pretty good. Adjective animal. Wiseacre. Can't wait for Trey to chug that next week.
He's gonna enjoy that. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, hey, brother.
8.6 alcohol by volume, by the way. Let me just throw that out there.
It's pretty big. It's pretty good. Listen, thanks for letting me join you tonight, man.
No, man. Thanks for coming.
Hopefully we'll have Trey. Hopefully have Trey back. Hopefully we'll have Trey back next week.
Yeah. Well, maybe. Maybe he's still gonna have diarrhea by then.
Let's hope not, man. Man's gonna come in 120 pounds next week if that's the case.
Trey does not actually have diarrhea, by the way.
No.
Just throwing that out there.
Man got the Rona.
Hi, brother. Come for
All
the
right,
cold
brother.
beer, stay for the hot takes. Peace.
If you enjoyed this episode of Tigers Untapped, leave a rating and a review wherever you download your podcasts. Like and subscribe at Bluff City Media's YouTube page. Head over to www.bluffcitymedia.co for comprehensive coverage of Memphis sports.